like hoping to restart the program this coming week. I have a little more time.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, we'll give it 3 minutes. I'm gonna get a cup of tea real quick.
Cool.
That's okay. That's okay.
All right, so today is January 2nd, 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. And this is a group call with Zoda.com. All right, let's jump in. And so if this is your first time hopping onto these coaching calls, welcome and always happy to have you here. We host these calls once every week at Saturday night, Eastern Standard Time, and you can schedule your call at our community right here. And these calls typically last around 30 minutes or until everyone's questions are answered. So if you have a question, just simply type question in the chat box and we will unmute you and we can help you out. Or actually, because our group is kind of small uh, today, we could just answer any questions. So feel free to just ask straight up.
Well, this is Josh Waltzman. I was just obviously I just joined the program, and I've started first watching the first couple instructional lessons. I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to kind of get a sense of what other people are asking today because I just started.
Okay, sure. So it seems like most of the people in this call today are actually just getting started. So CC is also getting started. Yeah, no worries. How are you enjoying the program so far?
Good. I've watched the first four
Yeah, I like it. I really like it
lessons
so
in
far.
module 1.
Okay, that's great.
Nice.
Yeah, it seems good. So I'm almost to the point where I think the next lesson is actually starting to think about ideas of what course ideas might be.
Okay. And what ideas are going through your head right now?
Just in kind of thinking about stuff that I feel like I'm a specialist that I could offer in. One idea that comes to mind is like starting your own, like the business side of starting your own medical practice. I didn't have a lot of mentors to help me with that process, and I started my own practice from day one out of training, and potentially a course for other physicians who are looking to open their own private practice was one idea. That was more from the business side, and then from the kind of like general public side, I thought maybe some type of course or courses on like basically like what all the information you would need to know on a particular type of plastic surgery. I think like there's a lot of free information out there, like on Instagram, but I think having that more organized into a course, like just picking a topic like breast surgery, like everything you would need to know about breast surgery and what different options are, and understanding all the intricacies of that might appeal to a broader audience. But I haven't really like delved into it much.
Okay, gotcha. So when it comes to your business course, you mentioned that you started everything piecing together everything yourself.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Is there any reason you chose that route instead of I guess um following the footsteps of someone else?
Yeah. So I got my MBA during while I was in medical school, and so I kind of always had that business interest.
Okay.
And then I moved back to California, where I'm from, after I finished fellowship, and it was just kind of like the right opportunity at the right time. There was a new office being built in the area where I wanted to practice, and I had interviewed with some older surgeons who were looking to bring on a junior partner, but none of those opportunities looked to be advantageous to me. It was all advantageous to them. And just kind of putting everything, all the pros and cons, I just decided, you know what, it's just like the right place and the right time. And I did a little market analysis of other plastic surgeons in the area, and just decided it was going to be kind of one of those high risk, high reward type situations.
Mhm.
And I felt like I had enough of the basic business background to make things happen. So it's been a learning process, but it's been exciting.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So was the MBA helpful at all?
Absolutely, 100%. Like I
Yeah.
don't think without that kind of core fundamental knowledge, I could have extrapolated to real world experience as easily. I probably could have done it, but I think I would have made a lot more mistakes along the way.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, those ideas definitely sound intriguing, and it definitely it sounds like it definitely has a market demand, especially with the business course. I'd be actually interested in learning that myself. And I've actually had a few clients that I spoke with. They were telling me how they were struggling when they started developing their clinical practice, and uh, they wished they had a program or some sort of system or some sort of guideline teaching them how to set up their first private practice instead of piecing everything together themselves. This is just stuff that they don't teach you in medical school.
Right, exactly. But do you think that audience is pretty small, like the potential market for that, of people who would want to take a course like that?
Mm, depend.
I'd be interested too, actually. I think there's actually a pretty big population because I don't know if you guys have heard of Pamela Weibel.
No.
She's a physician who's really passionate about physician mental health, and she really speaks out about like the rates of physician suicide, med students, residents, things like that. And for her, she got burnt out while working in like a regular clinic, got depressed, and then the way she found herself out of it was starting her own practice. And then later she started teaching others how to do it. And one of my colleagues referred me to her, and I took her program, but I think just the way she works, she's not very organized. So it was still very helpful for me, but I'm someone who likes more organization. So I think there is a market for like starting your practice in a different manner because she doesn't have an MBA. I don't either. She kind of told us, she's like, it's so easy. You can do it without an MBA. And I'm sure you can, but like
Oh,
you said,
totally.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of mistakes and stuff that you make along the way. I tried to start my own private practice last year or 2 years ago. And it didn't go so well. I also just wasn't in a good enough space to do it. And I'm trying to start again this year. So, with that, where I'm just like, I think I've got a better footing, but I'm sure there's so much more that you could teach me and other doctors who are interested. And there's a lot of doctors who are burnt out and want to leave the big box clinics and start their own practice, and they need guidance.
Okay, that's good feedback.
I definitely think when it comes to how small the market is, I think that small is relative, right? And it's like CC says, I think there's when people approach me asking for something, then that's usually when you have product market fit. That's usually when you know you have an idea that the market actually needs, when the market actually comes to you, right? And that's something we cover in week 2. Don't worry if you haven't went into it yet, but that's why responding to your idea when it comes to starting a business course, I think that uh, that that's a good angle. Even if the market is small, the smaller the better, because then you're actually speaking to a very specific person with a very specific offer, and that's usually the position that you want to be in, because you don't want to be a small fish in a big pond. You want to be a big fish in a small pond.
Oh,
And
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. You think that versus obviously if it was something more to the lay population, that, like you said, that definitely increases the number of people that you could advertise to, but then there's so many people advertising to them, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But I wouldn't worry too much about the advertising side because that's I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would worry more about the product market fit.
Okay.
And that's because once you have product market fit, and that's something we cover in week 2. Once you have product market fit, pretty much any advertising that you pour onto it, it's like pouring gasoline into a fire. You've already gotten the raw materials, you've already gotten the proof of concept, and all you're really doing is just scaling something that's proven to work at a smaller scale.
And it doesn't necessarily even have to be within the United States. The reach could be broader than that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because I see some of your other clients or participants are definitely international, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, when it comes to the digital doctor program, I'm still targeting United States only. And there's a reason why I'm doing this. It's mostly to optimize my ad spend, my advertising costs, and just really bring it to the knife's edge before I start expanding into the other Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's pretty much the position I'm in right now.
Okay.
That's why most of the clients that I work with, they're from the United States. It's the biggest consumer country in the world, right?
Sure. Definitely. Yeah. So those are some of the thoughts I had.
That's great. And what about Cece? How are you doing?
I'm good. I think I'm probably kind of where Josh is right now, and I'm in California
Oh, whereabouts in
too.
California
So
are you?
hi from California. um, I'm sorry.
Where in California are you?
I'm in San Jose, Santa Clara, the Bay Area.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm down in Long Beach.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So
live in Long Beach.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Cece. This is Ed. I'm in Huntsville, Alabama, but I lived in Long Beach, Josh, for a minute.
Oh, is that?
Yes, I did.
Small world.
No, sorry, Cece. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries at all. I didn't want to like miss something or interrupt. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, just I'm pretty much similar thoughts to where I've been thinking. The biggest thing I wanted to do was do like some kind of course on helping like doctors work through burnout or recover from it. But then there's also like that would be one target. But then I was also thinking about towards the lay people and more just like general self-care, and just lots of people deal with burnout too. But in that respect, I was actually wondering too, because in my head, what makes sense is to target doctors first and then eventually get to lay people. And I was thinking that simply because I think some of the example math that you had shown us, it sounded like the courses would be like at least $500. And so that's something where this whole like my own gathering of business information from all these random courses and stuff is like targeting your population and their income level. So I'm just thinking doctors can afford like $500 courses more versus the lay people that want to do self-care. Some of them just can't afford it. You know, they're trying out so many other stuff. So I was just kind of curious about thoughts on that as well.
Okay, I definitely think based on what you told me, and I still remember our first call together. I think you really have it's definitely a pain point, right? And regardless of whether it's a doctor or not, burnout is definitely a pain point. It's a very emotional pain point. It's a very practical pain point. And if you have a solution that you can offer to the market, then I think that could not only be very easily monetizable, but could also help a lot of people. And I think your decision when it came to targeting on doctors specifically, that's great as well. Not only because you could charge them a premium, but also because doctors themselves have the highest, like really high rates of burnout. I think
Yeah.
the I think when it comes to like the suicide rate, vets are number one, and then doctors are not far behind, and
Mhm.
it's definitely a very pressing situation. So I think I think it sounds good. All you need right now is just go get into week 2, start the PMF survey, and get live market feedback, and you're good to go.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
Cece, I was just going to add one thing. I totally agree. Like, obviously, it's a huge problem for doctors, so I think it's a great idea you have.
Mhm.
Just one little thing that I had the same problem where you're like feeling that people can't afford necessarily something like that. Like the average layperson, it might be a lot to ask.
Yeah.
That was a personal problem for me actually in my practice. About 80% of my practice is elective cosmetic, so cash basically.
Mhm.
And sometimes I feel bad like giving a patient like a quote for like, I feel like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money for this person, but like you have no idea what their situation is. Like
Yeah.
we can't as doctors like project our insecurities or our own like
Yeah.
feelings onto the patient, because we have no idea. That may not be a lot for them at all. And it's not fair sometimes to assume that. So I totally agree with your thoughts of approaching doctors, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. I was reflecting on that myself too recently, where I'm like, am I just kind of projecting my own kind of insecurities and fears?
And I've done it.
I think this happens to everyone. Like I think this happens whenever you are, because we are just not trained as salespeople, right? We
Mhm.
throughout medical school, I suppose most of us came in with the intention of learning how to solve problems, helping more people, and so on and so forth. But medical school doesn't really equip us with the skills to uh, monetize our services in the most effective way possible. Um, and I don't even use the word sales. And that's why starting in week 2, the first lesson, I just want to get rid of the word sales completely, because that is just not the right approach. It just doesn't vibe well with me. But there's also then this other side of the equation, which is the reality of living in a capitalist world. You have to market yourself. You have to put yourself out there in the best positive positive light in order to attract customers. So there's definitely a fine balance between there. And um, I'm happy that you shared with me that you also had an insecurity with charging for your services, because that's definitely something that everyone goes through. Yeah.
Hey, Chester, if I may, I've got maybe just a little bit of a different question, and if everybody wants to give me feedback, that would be much appreciated as well. So I'm fairly new as well, and so finishing up the first week, all kind of ideas popped in my head. One thing to the next, and so and towards the end, I felt like, geez, maybe I should have, maybe whittled it down to one or two things. Is kind of how I feel, although maybe not. I guess that's my question. When do you scale it down to one idea? I mean, is that as we go into week 2, as you go along the course, does it get more defined? Am I still okay being kind of general at this point?
Okay, gotcha. So you cut off a few parts over there, so I couldn't really make sense of your question. But if I understand you correctly, right now you have a few ideas or a lot of ideas floating in your head, and you're trying to crystallize it into just one. Is that correct?
Correct. And I just finished week 1. Well, I still have a couple of worksheets to do, but I guess will this come into focus as you go along the course more so, or should at the end of week 1, I should have crystallized my, unique or what I want to do, you know, at this point.
Sure. I'd say at least I'd say that I'd say that by the end of week 1, you should at least have one idea that you are committing to, at least testing and giving it a full run, right? And then
Okay.
in week 2, once you've validated that idea, then you could go all in without without anything holding you back anymore. Like none of that insecurity, none of that doubt, because it's already proven to work. So just to understand your situation a bit better, if you're open to it, we can talk about some of your ideas and which direction you might take them in.
Well, one of the ideas, for example, you know, I'm trained in primary care, so, you know, it seems like no matter what topic you're discussing, I mean, almost pick a topic and it always ends up at the end being diet and exercise, you know, preventative medicine, if you will. And so, you know, the one thing I think in primary care that we lack is, you know, something tangible, you know, almost a program, if you will, you know, steps and baby steps, you know, very, very simplistic, you know, a good, I hate to use the word diet plan, but a good diet plan, and also, you know, a moderate exercise plan, just to get people moving. And then maybe at different levels, you know, the second week, the third week, maybe a 12-week type of thing. So that's one of my ideas, you know, that we just, you know, we sit there and after, you know, some small talk and going over their history and maybe refilling a few meds. I mean, now, you know, visit's almost over and, you know, all of a sudden they pull out a list and, you know, I mean, it's like, and at the end of it, no matter what it is, you know, hypertension, high cholesterol, you know, obesity, incontinence, I mean, reflux, it all goes back to diet and exercise. I mean, you know, insomnia, you know, it just, so, you know, trying to make the time efficient, but make it very valuable and make it impactful. So
Okay.
that's one of my ideas. Mm-hmm.
And is that the idea that you feel the most confident with?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. I mean, you know.
Okay.
I would say so, yes.
And do you have a specific person in mind? Who are you trying to target?
I think there's certain physicians who would be interested in that. I mean, it would be very, very, very. I mean, it's very efficient. It's essentially at the end of every plan. And I think doctors would be one, and then just like Cece, I mean, after a while, I mean, just target general population.
Okay, gotcha. So you're targeting doctors first, and the problem that you're trying to solve is diet. Is that correct?
Right. Overall health.
Okay. I would try to be more specific than that.
Okay.
So I would niche down into maybe like a specific diet program, or maybe a specific exercise program, or
okay.
Yeah, I would just try to get really specific on one person, one problem, one solution. It makes things a lot easier when it comes to your own operations, but also the marketing.
What if it was like just for patients with diabetes, or just for patients with like rheumatoid arthritis or something like that? That specific, would that be helpful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah,
that's
or
really
like
that's
doctors.
really specific.
That's really specific, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, and that would be
or like
perfect if
plant-based diets too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because I think in week 1, you know, I think Chester, you said something about knowing your competition. versus 40 years ago. I mean, your competition was a guy next door, whatever. But nowadays, it's like, how can you make it to where it's unique enough? And I guess that's the unique piece, is that it is coming from a physician versus just Googling something. I think that's the value in the course, almost a professionally speaking type of thing.
So competition can be divided into 4 different areas, right? But I won't go into too much detail. But
Okay.
basically, you can have a competition in multiple aspects. The first is the marketing. That could be your competition. And when you go into week 4, like this is stuff that they just won't teach you in medical school. They don't even teach this in this simple of a way and this accessible of a way, even in the entrepreneur inner circles that I'm a part of. So that would be one of your biggest weapon. The second weapons in your arsenal when it comes to uh, standing out from the competition is your own personal story. So a lot of the clients that I work with, they connect with my story. For example, I've been a burnout doctor myself. I went through the medical education training program, and so on and so forth. And so they really connect with my story. But I've also worked with other clients like Stanley. He's the medical student. Medical students also really connected with his story, right? So in the beginning, he was trying to target doctors instead, but we found that, hey, you're a medical student yourself, and you basically speak their language. What if we targeted medical students instead? And that's when things really caught fire. And so people also connect with you based on your own story. So if let's say you're doing a weight loss program, and you've went through that transition, and you've lost those pounds, and you have a story to tell, then that's what people really connect with, right?
Right.
And I think most importantly, if you remember in week 1, at the end of the day, your program is meant to get your students results, whatever that may be. It could be something that's measurable. It could be something that's less measurable, but it's supposed to get your students from point A to point B and deliver a transformation. And yes, so all the information is definitely out there. It could be on WebMD, it could be on Google, it could be on YouTube, but it doesn't really promise any results, right?
Right.
So I'm
That
sure, like,
makes sense.
yeah. So when it comes to diet, for example, there's plenty of diet programs out there. There's
Oh, yeah.
boys, and there's plenty of different workout training, right? There's CrossFit one day, and then
Right.
something else the other day. But so all the knowledge is out there, but not everyone is fit with six pack abs and living in $1 billion mansions, right? So all the knowledge is out there.
Right.
It's not delivering the results. So that's where your edge is going to come in when it comes to designing your online course.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Well, thank you. That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do we have any more questions?
No, I'm good for tonight. I just kind of need to get through more of the course, I think.
Yeah, same. But this was really good to just kind of hear everyone's ideas and stories.
Yeah, same here. I'm still relatively new, so I, like Josh, wanted to kind of just get a feel for how it all ran and went and everything. But
Okay, great, 100%. And I'm really happy you guys showed up because sometimes people think that they have to have a question before they show up, and sometimes they think that, oh, I don't really have anything to ask, that's why I'm not going to show up. But the fact that you guys showed up, and I assume that you guys are going to show up next week and in the subsequent weeks, that already like holds yourselves, like, I'm here to hold you guys to a higher standard and keep you guys accountable and keep you guys on track. So I'm happy you guys showed up, and definitely go through the program. And if you have any questions, definitely ask in the community.
Great. Thank you.
okay, sounds good.
That's good. Thank you, Chester.
All right. Wonderful. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.